As doctors, we only not want to add years to life, but also add life to the years added to make meaningful living, not just existing. Live a meaningful life and a purposeful life.
Welcome everyone to our next installment for our APSC Leadership Series. We're very privileged today to have Professor Cheng Hock, our next guest on our APSC Leadership Sharing Series. Prof, can you maybe just do a quick introduction about yourself before we proceed?
Thank you for asking me to join you on this occasion to share some thoughts with you. I'm currently a senior consultant and Emeritus Consultant at Seng Hospital, Department of Surgery.
Usually our guests are very humble, so I'll introduce Prof. Lau again a little bit more.
Thank you.
Prof has been my mentor since I was a medical student, and his career has been very illustrious. I will introduce him to set the stage about why we want to talk to him about effective leading, contribution to society, and the rest of the leadership pieces. So Professor Lau graduated from NUS medicine in 1968. By 1972, he had a master's in surgery, and he came back to serve and set up the department at Seng Hospital by 1980, I believe. When I was a houseman, he was already head of surgery, senior consultant in Seng for many years, and subsequently he became the chairman division of surgery as well as chairman medical board Seng. He is a clinician mentor as well as the president National Healthcare Group College, where he is in charge of education to this day. Prof, that is his professional career, but what I want people to know is his contribution towards and the way he found time to contribute towards the rest of society in general. So Prof, besides being a very illustrious surgeon and educator in the hospital, was the previous Singapore Medical Association president, the Master of Academy of Medicine. And for 25 years, he volunteered in the Singapore Armed Forces to be a lieutenant colonel retired. A lot of people do not know, but he was also the chief commissioner of the St. John's Brigade. And throughout his contribution, he was awarded the Knight of Grace of the Order of the St. John's by Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II for his contribution towards the St. John's Brigade. He's on the board for many schools as well, the Gabrielite schools. He's advisory council for that, Bukit Panjang Secondary School. He is a justice for peace, and he has officiated in many of our and my colleagues' weddings as well. And he's also a mediator at the subordinate courts. He has many other non-medical titles behind his name: PPA, Public Service Administration Medals, BBM, PBM, anything you can think of for public service. So I think, but the one thing I really appreciate about Prof's contribution is his incessant contribution towards grooming the next generation of physicians, and his contribution towards bringing out the next generation of medical students. And I'm one of those who benefited greatly from Prof innumerable contributions. So I think today's stage is very apt. Prof is also a trainer in Singapore for Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Effective Living. We're not going to go into that today, but today's purpose is for Prof to share with us on how, in his view, we can be an effective doctor, as well as how do we find the passion, the motivation, and time to contribute backwards to society in general. And I think he leads by example, but we want to hear from him what ultimately is the motivation to do so much that he has done so far. So without further ado, we'll invite Prof to start off by giving us a lecture on effective living as a physician.
Thank you, Jack, for that very kind, exaggerated introduction. I'm very grateful that you asked me to come and share with your colleagues on this very important but very challenging topic of how to live a life of effectiveness to achieve success and happiness in a medical career. As they always say, happiness, success is like a butterfly. The more you chase after it, the more you fly away. Live a life of effectiveness, with professionalism, with ethical principles. Live an effective life to serve humanity and society. Happiness and success will come like a butterfly settle upon you. Let us remember first and foremost that success and achievement and happiness is not just a destination, it is a lifelong journey. I think to be a good clinician and live a life of meaning and purpose, we must first of all, what is important in medical practice? You need both the hardware, H-A-R-D, hardware, and the hardware. The hardware, what you call the science of medical practice, is knowledge, technology, skills, innovation, IT, etc., etc. They are important for you to be a good, effective doctor. But just as important is the hardware, H-E-A-R-T, the art of practicing medicine with passion, enthusiasm, conviction, trust, professionalism, ethical principles, empowerment, and so on. Hardware makes you a good doctor, but it is the hardware, H-E-A-R-T, that makes you not just a good doctor, but a healer. So you want to be a doctor and a healer. So I hope to summarize what I want to share with you and the audience. You are asking what makes a successful and a happy career. I've summarized it in what I call the 10 effective guideposts. First, priority number 1, plan your own life. Plan your own life. Have a mission and a vision in your life. The purpose and meaning of life is to live a life of meaning and purpose with professionalism, ethical principles, integrity, and character. If you don't plan your life yourself, somebody plan for you. You may not like it. It's not easy to practice clinical medicine today in the presence of commercialization and industrialization of medicine. We need to keep our principles, our professionalism, our ethical duties upright all the time. Be strong in these roots of character. The second important thing, which I think for effective living, is have initiative. Have initiative. Look for alternatives. Make things happen. Don't wait for things to happen. They say you hit iron when it's hot. I say no. Hit the iron when it's hot. You make the hair when sunshine? No. You make hair even when there's no sunshine. You look for alternatives. Let me show you one example. Many years ago, in our hospital, when I was CMB, medicine says jaundice, GIT bleeding must come to us. Surgery says come to us. So what do? We think of another option. We create the section of gastrointestinal division, which doesn't belong to medicine, doesn't belong to surgery, belongs to everybody. So think of another alternative. Can we think of a better chance to make people together? So in life, you must go beyond the obvious. Go beyond the obvious and look for that alternative. The third thing, which I think is important for the practice of medicine and living a good life, is to know your priorities. Know what is important, what is urgent. Now, I'm sure many of our cardiologist friends will agree with me. Exercise is important, but is exercise urgent? No. It's not urgent. However, if you don't exercise, you get heart diseases and problems. Then it becomes urgent. So in life, we must know what is important, what is urgent. If you don't take care of important things, they become urgent. Live a good life, work hard, but don't forget your family, your friends, your colleagues, and live a good life. And know your priorities in life. Fourth, always remember, nothing is more important than patience. Patience is the reason for existence. Patience wants to know how much you know. But they also want to know how much you care. You can pay people to teach, but you cannot pay people to care. Nowadays, we use a lot of technology, use computer. We put the computer on the trolley, we call it computer on wheels, COW. But let us remember, computers, technology is very important. But they must be our servant, not our master. Let me share with you one example. Many years ago, when I was a third year medical student, I learned the meaning. One of my friends, a social worker, his wife was admitted to a ward. He waited in the ward at 7 a.m. for doctors to come. At 7:30, the doctors came and pushing the trolley with the computer. They say hi, and then they look at the computer, they talk among themselves, and after 10 minutes, they move on. I was shocked. They did not talk to me. Are they treating the computer? Are they treating the patient? And my friend asked me, is that how you train your students? I felt so ashamed of myself. Let us never forget the human being for whom the computer was pushed. Technology must be our servant and not our master. They are useful, but we must not and never forget the human being for whom the computer was pushed. Fifth, compassion. Compassion is a subject that is very difficult to teach, challenging to learn, but essential to practice. You know, when you work, years of clinical practice can harden our heart muscles and numb our soul. We need to lubricate it with the milk of compassion. Don't forget, the heart of medical education is the education of the heart. I learned this lesson when I was first in the clinical wards. First day in clinical, very overall tired, very happy. Professor Donald Gunn said, wait, I will come 10 minutes time. Go and see bed 22. We went to the bed. There was a child, about 8 years old. But the size of a 4-year-old baby, crooked, face detailed, flattened, eyes at the end, so awful. I was ashamed of myself. I don't know how to approach the patient. My friends and I don't know what to do. How to be a good doctor. 5 minutes later, Professor Gunn came in. Good morning, student. And the next thing he did was carry the child into his arms and give a hug to the baby. And the baby smiled. It was a crooked smile, but it was a beautiful smile. That moment, I felt so ashamed of myself that we don't know how to touch the baby. That evening, my friends and I purposely go back to the ward and visit the patient. Your eyes closed, we carry the baby in your arms. And the baby smiled, the child smiled. It was a crooked smile, but a beautiful smile. Because it was so lack of attention. Today, I forgot what Professor Gunn taught us about Appert's pathology, but I remember his lesson in compassion. Years of clinical practice can harden our heart muscles and numb our soul. Lubricate it with the milk of compassion, always. Next important point is, my dear friends, always recognize the potential in those around you. Everybody has some talent. Some are good in clinical work, some are good research, some are good teaching, some are good administration. Recognize the potential in each of your staff. Help them to unleash the giant in them so they can contribute as much as possible to the best of their ability. We must learn. They say leaders stand on the shoulders of giants. I say not them. Leaders stand not only on the shoulders of giants. Leaders help people to stand on each other's shoulders so that all of us can see further, can see why, and help each other to move forward. So recognize the greatness of those around you and unleash the potential in them. 7, be a good communicator. This cannot be overemphasized. Learn to listen. Listen with empathy. Most of us don't know how to listen. When they argue what I'm doing, I'm thinking of how to answer you back. Learn to listen. Listen with empathy. Listen with your heart and listen with your ear. And 8, embrace change. Change is necessary. But don't change just for change's sake. Change because it can bring about betterment, better innovation, better system, better contribution, so that everything can improve. Sometimes somebody put it this way: what the caterpillar calls the end of life, the butterfly calls it the whole new world. Change because it can bring about betterment to our society, to our patient care. So embrace change as when necessary. 9, be a lifelong learner. A good doctor must be a learner for life. Like the majestic waterfalls of the mountain, learning must be continuous, ever flowing. Be a learner always, otherwise become antique. I started to learn endoscopy when I was a senior registrar. I learned laparoscopic surgery when I was a young consultant. So we must never stop learning or else become an antique. You also want to be a teacher. Every doctor is a teacher. Be a teacher. They say a teacher is a painter. He paints not on canvas, but on the hearts of the students. Be a good teacher. Recognize the potential of people. And not only that, be a team player and a leader. You must be a leader where you are. But a leader is not succeed himself. A leader must help his colleagues, his juniors to succeed. A leader never succeeds alone. He succeeds when his colleagues succeed. He brings out the best in those around him. He leads with trust. And the most important person to lead is yourself first. Learn to lead yourself. Then help to lead others. And don't say you go, we say we go. Together we achieve. Together we excel. So learn to be a good leader. And very important, live a balanced lifestyle. Work hard, study hard, play hard, but very important, live a balanced lifestyle. They say the most important things in life is health, family, and friends. Work hard, study hard, but make sure you live a balanced lifestyle. Have a hobby so that you can distress yourself. It can be photography, can be swimming, can be dancing, can be music, can be anything. But do have a hobby and live a balanced lifestyle. In what Stephen Covey used to call the 4 wheels or 4 spokes of a wheel of balanced lifestyle. You must balance mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, socially. And these are the 4 wheels of a balanced lifestyle. So in summary then, to be a good, effective doctor and to hopefully to live a life of balance that brings you happiness and success, plan your life, be initiative, prioritize your life. Patience is our main concern, and practice medicine with compassion. Recognize the potential in others and be a good communicator and be able to embrace change and be a lifelong learner, a teacher, a team player, living a balanced lifestyle. Well, my dear friends, I hope I have very briefly summarized what I call the 10 pointers to guide us as we travel in our healthcare journey so it can be effective living, serving our people, our patients, and helping our colleagues as we go along in the practice of clinical medicine. Let's remember, in search of knowledge, there are no borders. In sharing our expertise, there are no boundaries. In the service of medicine and mankind, the sky has no limit. Thank you very much, and I'll be happy to answer some of your questions. Thank you.
That was amazing, Prof, as usual. I really enjoyed the lecture. Maybe I can get you to stop share, then we can maybe discuss around some of the points you brought up. I felt that this lecture almost feels like one that we can discuss around the issue of burnout that a lot of junior doctors are facing. I think the first part I wanted to ask you, Prof, personally is you did very well in your professional career, but you found so much time to contribute backwards to society. And the first point you brought up was finding purpose in life, right? Is it for you personally? Is it religious? Is it just a desire to serve? Or what was the motivation? Because if you can't get the purpose correct, and if you go into medicine for the purpose of just, for example, knowledge or for the money and the fame, I don't think it'll get you very far. So how do you come to that purpose, Prof?
Thank you for that question. I remember years and years ago, a senior clinician, Dr. Lee Suang Yu, told me one evening, voluntarism must be a way of life. And always remember those words. We must pay forward to help the people around us. One of the best things in life is to be able to stoop down and raise people up. Medicine contribution give us that opportunity. So they said, find a job you enjoy doing, you never have to work a single day of life. So you must enjoy what you're doing. In your work, in your voluntarism, in your contribution to society, no one lives alone. We want to be able to stoop down and raise people up. That must be our motivation to help people along, to live a life of meaning, a life of purpose.
I think it's not so easy for a lot of our junior doctors. I hear a lot of feedback. Maybe I can ask. I'm sure you heard this before. They find that they have not enough time. They spend a lot of time at work, and they are increasingly feeling very stressed with this interaction with the EMR and the computers. The need to really type in a lot of stuff in our computer system, and sometimes I think my observation is the same. They're spending a lot of time entering into the computer system and not enough time really interacting with the patients. But their feedback is that they got a lot of things to do over in the computer. That's why, and they're really feeling very stressed about it. What's your advice to that?
I think these are very challenging questions because, as I mentioned earlier just now, computers are important, technology is important, but never forget the patient. You know, I give you one example. Nowadays, in the outpatient clinic, everything is computerized. We have to look at the computer first. So when I first started using this computer, I find I was looking at the computer, tapping everything in, and talking to the patient, and I sense the patient don't like it. I'm not looking at them. I'm not listening to them. I'm looking at the computer. Are you treating the computer? Are you treating me? So nowadays, I always make a point before the patient coming, I read the computer first. And when patient coming, I talk to them, interact with them. When they move out, I enter everything in the computer. So don't forget the human being behind the computer that we are talking to. Treat them as human beings. Very important. So, as I mentioned earlier, patient wants to know how much you know. They want to know how much you care, with compassion, with love. So always remember the human being behind those technology. Return to the care of the patient beyond the computers and the technology. They are important, but they must be our servant.
I like that tip, Prof. I think if you know the patient, you don't have to go there and do the work at the same time. You should really talk to the patient, the family, then do the computer work after. I think that's one way of getting around this dissociation between treating the computer versus treating the patient. And I like the fact that you mentioned that once you accept that change is bound to happen and you need change to evolve, then maybe you don't treat it as a stress point as much. I think that's also quite important for the next generation because there's bound to be tons of changes both in technology, practices, and you can see every other year with a new health minister, there are new changes in our healthcare system. So I think we need to take it in our stride as physicians. The change is bound to happen as well. Um, Prof, one thing that you didn't put out in your series is resilience. Um, I think if you have enough empathy, compassion, and purpose in life, automatically you have resilience. But do you want to speak to resilience again? How do one develop resilience in the practice of medicine?
Thank you for that challenging question. I think I said just now earlier said change is essential, but please change only when it's necessary. Don't change for changing sake. And you must look beyond the obvious. And sometimes you must, a lot of things is common sense, but sometimes common sense are not that common. You might have a purpose in life, a mission in life, a destination, and what you want to achieve. Now, let me share you one example. Many years ago, when we wanted to start a rehab service for cancer care, CEO says, okay, go and discuss. One finance officer raised a good question. Can we make even? Can we lose money? I said, of course we lose money. Rehabilitation, we lose money. But we must look beyond the dollars and cents. If your rehab service is good, if your palliative care service is good, your hospital will be better. Total holistic care. So must put some sense into the dollars. Look beyond the obvious and put sense into your dollars. Now, of course, the finance office is correct. They have looked at the medical, financial health care of the hospital, but look beyond the obvious. To build resilience, we must keep true to our purpose, our dedication, our reliability towards the healthcare system. At the end of the day, you must always ask yourself, what is best for the patient? That is your answer to any difficulties you face with. Resilience is something that's very hard to build, but we need to challenge ourselves, be the best we can be, and the best we know how. Always say also, have a hobby to distress yourself. Otherwise, you'll not be able to build resilience. You need a hobby, a diversion, time to go to the sea and listen to the waves, time to listen to music. You want to go to church, go to mosque, go to temple, do spend some time there. Or just go to the beach and listen to the waves and de-stress yourself so you can build up your strength and resilience.
I think you always share about listening to the sea and going to relax. I think in terms of resilience building, there is some advice behind it. For example, the 80-20 rule, meaning that when you're working very hard, you still have to devote 20% of the time to at least a hobby, to do something completely different,
Yes.
to de-stress. I think that builds resilience. It's not to add on another 20% of stress. So more and more stress doesn't build resilience, actually. It just builds breakdown and burnout. So I think developing a sense of humor, just take things a bit
Yes,
more lightly helps a lot. Having a conviction that you're helping people and helping the people around you,
yes.
rather than just being focused about getting ahead in your training and stuff like that, does help build your own personal resilience as well. Because ultimately, it's the friendships around you that help you build the resilience.
Yes.
I think, and Prof has helped a lot of medical students overcome their difficulties in developing resilience as well. So, Prof, one question is, I know Tan Seng has a Lee Kong Chian School of Medicine.
Yes.
What type of students should consider doing medicine nowadays?
Very difficult encompassing question. It's very difficult, and even in all our interviews, it's not always easy to find out the best in the student. Of course, we always repeat what we said. You want student with empathy, student with compassion, people with understanding, people with good communicator, and so on and so forth. The truth is that no matter how much we try, sometimes we cannot detect what is best in the student. So in the interview process even. You know, I always remember one student who didn't get into medicine in the first time, but he got into medicine second time and became a top student of his class and became a top valedictorian as well. So sometimes it's very difficult to find what we think is best in the student. But as we always say, we want to look beyond technical knowledge. All students are clever, they're all clever, they're all 4As and 5As and so on and so forth. But it's the human touch, the human heart, the compassionate heart, the empathy, the ethical principles. These are important to be a doctor. And that is very difficult to practice in the face of current commercialization and industrialization of medical practice. We are overwhelmed with so much in the industry. We must keep our principles correct. And I hope our doctors will always remember the practice with professionalism, with ethical principles. No harm in wanting to make money, but make it correctly, make it honestly. And remember what is best for the patient.
So I think as doctors, we are truly patients advocate. But I think it's increasingly becoming tough, like you said, to tease out. I think sometimes we also need increasingly great role models like yourself, because I think medicine is after our apprenticeship. If they see their seniors practicing things that is not quite right or not quite to the interest of patient, they will just say that that's the norm. So we increasingly need, more so these days, the right role models for younger doctors, I think. I think people can be molded, the young especially. I felt it's very difficult, like you said, to tease out who really cares for patient when they're 18 years old, to predict into the future. But I think our processes really need to allow this opportunity for the young people to develop into the profession. I think if they don't develop in the profession because we don't have the right processes or the opportunities for them to do the right stuff, then I think it's a system that failed our young people rather than they themselves. So, I mean, that's just a personal opinion.
I think you have shared with us your thoughts, and what you pointed out were very important and very relevant. And some of the points you mentioned just now are something which we all should keep in mind all the time. But maybe to go back to the main subject you asked, we are talking about how to live a life of effectiveness, how to achieve happiness and success. Let us remember, the most important in life is to serve. It's better to serve than to receive. Better to give than to take. One of the best things in life is to have good health, good family, good friends, so that you can live a life of meaning, a life of purpose. And as doctors, we only not want to add years to life, but also add life to the years added to make meaningful living, not just existing. Live a meaningful life and a purposeful life. Some of the books that have very influenced me a lot and I should recommend to our audience is one of the most important is Stephen Covey's book. Stephen Covey's book on 7 Habits of Effective Living is not only good for the general public, but also good for clinicians and medical practice. So I recommend them to read the book on the 7 Habits of Effective Living. Another book which I find very useful was To Live One More Day by Beach Alban. And then, of course, there's the lecture book called The Last Lecture. These are just some of the many good books that's worth reading. There were a lot of wisdom in them. And if you mentioned about Stephen Covey, his 7 habits of effective living are very, very useful and are very applicable in the clinical practice of medicine.
When you were setting up the department and stuff like that, you were still, I remember volunteering in St. John's Brigade, the SAF, and all the professional bodies. How do you find so much time to do it?
I think it's about prioritization, about organization. Sometimes you wake up in the morning, oh, today I have so many things to do. 7 o'clock, I've got to do walk round. 8:30, I got to do a tutorial. 10:30, I got outpatient clinic. Afternoon, I got this, got that. No, don't worry too much. Just plan. Just organize. Then you won't be so stressed. Be systematic. First thing first, as Stephen Covey puts it, what is important and not just what is necessary. What is important, what is urgent. And then plan your life, plan your timetable. Then you won't be so overwhelmed. I've come across many excellent doctors, surgeons, and so on, who seem to have more than 25 hours a day. But I think it's all about planning, about organization, systemic planning. and you won't be too stressed. Otherwise, you get very stressed out.
Prof, what's amazing about you is that a lot of your planning is in doing stuff that a lot of doctors are not contributing to, whether professional bodies or even like going out on the weekend to officiate someone's wedding. So thank you again for all your contributions. And I think your main strength, Prof, I feel is that you groom a whole generation of medical students and doctors. And you're shown the way as a great role model to give of yourself and your time. So I think that's a great role model to follow. And you didn't just focus on professional achievements, but public service. So I think that's really very important. And it's not just about talking, it's about the action. So I think we follow the action, not the talking more, I think, nowadays. So I thank you very much again, Professor Cheng Hock, for your time.